Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
Welcome to the interview recap for the Be It Till You See It podcast. This is our first one. So this is where my co-host in life, Brad, and I are going to dig into an amazing conversation I had with Joanna Vargas in our last episode. If you haven't yet listened to that interview, feel free to pause this now. And go back and listen to that one. And then you can come back and join us. Or if you're like me and you like to know how things end, then you can listen to this one and then go back to that one. There are no rules here. This is your life, and you get to be it till you see it the way you want. Okay.
She's not lying. That's literally how she is.
It's how I watch everything.
Yeah.
If you watch The Crown and Google it on Wikipedia while you're watching it, let me know in the DMs on Instagram. Okay. So anyways, first, Brad, is there any... Okay, hold on. So this is where we have an audience question, but I'm going to be really honest. This is the first episode. So there's no way that you could have sent us anything to ask us because you didn't hear the interview yet, and this podcast just launched. So we thought we would do something different today.
Yeah, we thought basically instead of an audience question, that instead we'd share just a little bit about what Be It Till You See It actually means, how we came up with the name of the pod, and what we focus on with our takeaways with each interview.
Yeah.
So first off, tell me how we came up with the name.
Okay, so let me be really honest. We have been trying to figure out a name for a podcast for about 3 years.
Yeah.
So we have come up with many URLs to many podcasts that will never be. And that's okay. But the way this podcast name came about, is, so I had been listening to an interview with Amy Cuddy it's not an interview, it's a TED Talk with Amy Cuddy that one of my OPC members had sent to me. And she said, this interview makes me think of you and how you teach. And I was like, who has 15 minutes just to watch a random TED Talk, of which I don't know anything about, right? Like to be honest, y'all, I'm not a TED Talk watcher. When I watch a TED Talk, it's because someone sent it to me. So I listened to this TED Talk, and she shares this study that they did about how if you stand in the Superwoman stance, that means hands on hips. If you're on YouTube, then you can see this. If you're listening to a pod, then I need you to stand with your hands on your hips, put your feet parallel and a little bit wider than your hips, lift your chest, and be the Superwoman that you are. And if you hold that for 5 minutes, what it tells your brain is that you're a fucking badass. She didn't say that. Those are my words. But basically, they did a study where they had people stand in that posture for 5 minutes. And then they had people go into an interview. And they had these interviewers. I forgot the end of that. Interviewers clearly haven't had to go on an interview in a while. They had these interviewers have no expression whatsoever, completely interview them. And the people that did the power stance left the interviewing, nailed it. When the interviewer literally gave no expression whatsoever, they had people sit in a slump position. So go ahead, slouch it out. Sit in the slump position.
Slouch it out.
And then go in for the interview. And all those people thought they failed the interview. Same interviewers, same questions, same non-expressions. How crazy is that? So then she tells a story about how her life went when I forget what Ivy League school she was at, but basically she had this brain injury. She was super, super smart, has a brain injury, is barely making through college, somehow lands in Ivy League school, thinks she's like failing. She's with her dean or whoever you talk to at college, I don't know. No one at my college asked me to come in for an interview of any kind. And she said, I am in the wrong place. I don't belong here. And he said, why do you think that? And she had some response, and he gave her a challenge to like ask a question in every class and like actually be the girl who belongs at that school. And she then went on to be a professor at another school, an Ivy League school. And this girl comes in her office like, I don't belong here. I'm not good enough to be here. I'm going to cry. I'm not going to be here. And in that moment, she gave the girl the same advice, and she realized she was being the person who belonged at the place until she saw that she was the girl that belonged.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me in such a way because I grew up in the fake it till you make it world, which is like smile. If you don't feel happy, put a smile on your face because you will feel happy. And
well, I think there's a negative connotation to that where it's like you're worried more about the way others are perceiving your tragic experience or your discomfort or your unhappiness instead of you focusing on yourself. Yeah. Right. So like it's a fake it till you make it is like, you know, like the perception of others looking at you. Be it till you see it is your perception of you until you get there.
And I love that so much because we should really care so much about what we think and not what others think because others are not thinking about you as much as you want. We can get into that another day. You can ask me what I think about that. But anyways, so that still doesn't answer your question of how it got his name.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that class.
I know. Okay, so I don't remember why this class.
I know, you told that story. I think it must have been shortly after you watched the TED Talk.
It wasn't probably, it was, you know what it was? We did this whole thing. We taught a live Pilates class virtually because that's how we do things. And you took the workout with me. And it was a smaller class than normal. And I finished the class with us standing. And I had us stand in our power stance. And then I told a mini version of what I just told you, because it can get shorter, y'all. I can do it shorter. And I said, and now I want you to go and be it till you see it. And you said, that's the name of the podcast. Yeah. And I was like, what?
On the spot. Like immediately right there. I was like, that's it. That's the one.
That's the one.
Right? Like everyone's watching like, what is he talking about?
Oh my God. The poor girls on the other end of the computer who we couldn't see because the way the camera was, I'm sure we're like, what are these people? Anyways, they're still members of ours, so it's all good. So anyway, in my creation of this podcast and really making sure it is worth every minute of your time because I gotta be honest with you. Your time is the only resource that is non-renew. Like you cannot recreate your time, right? Yeah. You can create money. You can create, what are the other resources in life? I don't know.
Food,
friends. All these things
not really family, but
no, but
yeah,
you can make family.
But you don't get more time.
You don't get more time.
You get more of other things, right?
Other things, yeah. So I just feel like if I'm going to be in your ears each and every week, which thank you so much, I want you to get something out of it. And so when I was working on this podcast, I came with an acronym for B.E.I.T. And that is, B is for bold. You have to be bold. This world is not, everyone's going to ask you to play small. And if you play small, guess what you're going to get? Small things. And it's going to be frustrating and unsatisfying. And you know what people don't do on their deathbed? Go, you know what? I regretted being bold when I was 29 years old. No one does that. They're like, I regret not doing the thing that was bold. Yeah. And so B is for bold, and it is the most important thing, and it is the scariest thing, it is the hardest thing. It's so freaking scary for me to be here right now talking to this microphone with you, but I'm being bold too. E is executable. Y'all, action steps. The things, executable is hard because like, I'm like, be bold and also do things that you can actually execute. But that's the other thing. You could also find people to execute the task for you. So that's also really awesome. I is intrinsic.
I am not opposed to having strategic boldness. Okay. I mean, those two are definitely,
that's going to be a Brad.
They're not mutually exclusive. They can go together.
Yeah. You know? That's going to, so, and this is why Brad is here. because I have bold ideas and Brad's like, and here's how we do that.
Yeah.
And so sorry. That's our dog, Gaia. She's going to do that every episode. So I am a bold ideas person, and he's like, and as soon as I start to get a little scared, like, oh my God, like I don't have the skills for this. He's like, oh, look I've mapped out all the strategy to make this happen. So thank you, Brad, for that. We'll make a shirt out of it.
What's I?
I is intrinsic. And here's the thing about I can't tell you how to figure out what makes you intrinsically motivated, but here's what I will tell you about extrinsic. Extrinsic motivation is like money, things, right? Like it's like things outside of you. And those will get you so far. You'll take promotions and other things based on extrinsic. You might say yes to something, but it quickly goes away. What is the word I'm looking for?
Intrinsic is like internally natural.
Yes.
It's essential. It's basically part of you. It's so part of you.
Yeah.
That's intrinsic.
And that is something that I hope as you listen to guests and Brad and I each week, that you get closer and closer to why the heck do you want to do what it is that you want to do? Always, like, what is it about you, right?
I think intrinsic is another way to talk about intrinsic is strengths.
Yes.
Right? Like, what are your strengths?
Well, you know what? People should ask us in a question. We don't have time for that today, but I'm hint, you should ask that in a question because there's a good story around that. Okay. T is targeted. So targeted is just like, I believe you have to put deadlines on things. There needs to be a target to it. There has to be something that makes you take the action. So you could have a bold idea. You can write out all the strategy. You could be intrinsically motivated. And if you don't put a target on that thing, you will put it off till tomorrow.
Yeah.
And another day. And it will just be this thing that you've always thought you would do one day, but you never do. And here's the thing about targets. You make them, and therefore, if you don't meet them, it's not like, oh, gosh, I suck at this. No. You actually just go, okay, why didn't I hit the target of what I set? What got in the way of that? And you ask yourself some questions, and then you go, okay, how can I fix this for the future? And then you set a new target. Trust me, this podcast was supposed to start 3 years ago.
Well, also the thought process hadn't been put in to actually make it what it is. So like we had this intention, right? But we didn't take bold, executable, intrinsic, targeted action until a couple months ago.
Yeah, I think sometimes, ideas have to percolate, and we did not put a target date on it because we can get into another day, but like 2019 was going to be a podcast. We decided that was the year that we was that No New Things? Was 2020 No New Things?
I think 20, I can't remember. But
I don't remember because 2020 didn't happen.
It's fine. Yeah. The fact is that now that it's coming together, and I'm really excited about the planning and the strategy and the B.E.I.T. And the acronym, I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
So
wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah, what an audience question that wasn't, but it's so great that it was.
And so you can ask your questions for us to answer on Instagram at B.E.I.T.pod. So if you just type in B.E.I.T.pod as 3 separate words, it will pull it up. Or if you're like really someone who likes detail, it's really boring. It's BE_IT_POD. But anyways, I read all the DMs. You will find it. I want you to ask us any questions you want. There's not a question we probably can't answer. And we're really honest if we're like, no.
Yeah. And so anyway, okay. I love it. So
I love you. And I love it.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for calling it out, babe. I would have just let that moment pass us by. And you're like, this is it. So this is also why you're here. And you highlight the good stuff.
And see.
Thank you. So before we get into our whole shebang with talking about Joanna, I just want to say I have a quick little freebie for you. So here it is. You may not know what it is you want to be right now, but prioritizing your time for yourself is the utmost importance. It is totally a broad sentence. Here's the deal. If you don't prioritize yourself, no one's going to prioritize you. And I believe in practicing prioritization. And one way that you can do that is with a Pilates class with me. Why? Because every time you show up for yourself on your mat, you are telling the universe, you're telling yourself, I am prioritizing me right now. And so in order to do that, because you might be like, girl, I don't know what Pilates is, I want to offer you a free class at onlinepilatesclasses.com/beit. So that's onlinepilatesclasses.com/BEIT. All right, Brad, who are we talking about today?
Okay, amazing. I really can't wait to talk about Joanna Vargas. She is an absolute rocket, like rock star, rocket, like craziness. She's like a bottle rocket. I mean, every rocket you can imagine. She
fire.
Is that.
She is fireworks. She's fire. She's glitter that just enters the room.
Yeah,
she's so
She's
awesome.
like the glitter all over the place. We met Joanna at a conference 2 years ago now, or something like that, and we had a chance to really get to know her over 6 months. And what a great interview! I'm sure you kind of picked up on that. If you had a chance to listen to the interview with her already, I'm sure you picked up on that. Anyway, I just wanted a brief intro. Joanna Vargas has been an entrepreneur since she was a little girl, like really little. I think she said 6 or 7 years old. She started her first entrepreneurial thing. She creates her own life and questions everything. She is a total powerhouse, and he's the host of 2 podcasts, The Get Up Girl and Dance Your Life. And aside from that, she is just a really, really strong businesswoman and, loves life. So it was a really great pod.
I mean, you're going to want to listen to that interview several times, and it's fine to save it and listen to it when you need it again. She bought avocados from her neighbors and then sold them back to the people she bought them from, which is just like a hustler. And she calls herself a self-proclaimed hustler. So, okay, here's what I have to talk about. In the interview, you will hear us talk about this game she used to play with her girlfriend, which is called Remember When. And they would just lay around and they would talk about Remember When, and they would just pick something out that happened in the future, but they're remembering it, and then they would just layer on it. And it makes me think of those like childhood games where you would like say a line and someone else says a line and someone else says a line.
Whisper down the lane.
Is that what it's called?
No. I think it's almost like you're telling a story, but you get to change the story. You do like 5 words to change it or something. Yes. I can't remember what that is.
Someone will tell us on Instagram. Anyways, I love this. And so on the spot, in the interview, she and I played Remember When. Now, let me just tell you.
It was pretty fun.
Joanna and I have only hung out 2 times around 50 other people. And we had another moment where we were doing photo shoots, but she was getting her picture taken, I was getting my picture taken. And so you can do Remember When with a complete stranger or someone you barely know or someone you kind of know or your best friend. And I really want to make this like a date thing. Babe, I want to put this in our calendar.
Okay. Remember When? Remember When. Put it in the calendar?
Put it in the calendar. So I want us to play Remember When. Because in the interview, Joanna and I did this and we listened to it because we bring up Oprah calling. And then I think it was me, but maybe it wasn't. But I thought I said, and then we told her we can't do that day. Can you do this day? And then Oprah changed her schedule. And let me just tell you, when I came out of the interview, I was like, Oprah's going to change her schedule for me. And I was on fire from playing Remember When. In that moment, it just made me feel so much extra. And I think it's really easy to get exhausted from the day to day. And when you need to feel a little bit extra, I want you to call someone and play Remember When. So that's my favorite talking point.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was really hard to pick a favorite, but that's the one.
I had a question for you about something that you both referenced. You referenced this thing called open loops, but I didn't really know what it was. Mm-hmm. And I thought it might make sense to just kind of explain that a little bit.
So that's a great question. And probably because Joanna and I are both huge believers of open loops. We're like, everyone must know what an open loop is. So thank you for asking. An open loop, as human beings, we like certainty. Okay? We need change because that is like the only thing that is certain in life is that everything will change. But we like to pretend like we know what's going to happen next, which is why the pandemic was such a thing, because all of a sudden, there was nothing certain, but nothing's ever been certain. But our brain likes certainty.
Okay.
So when you ask your brain a question, we've talked about this with our agency group, babe. When you ask a person, like, do you know anyone who could take Pilates with me? That is a question that actually is a closed loop because they go yes or no, right? But when you ask them, who do you know who would take Pilates with me? It's an open loop.
Okay.
So in that same way of like changing the question that opens a loop.
Yeah.
Open loops are putting a question mark on something that can't be a yes or no answer. It has to, you actually are asking your brain a question and purposely not letting your brain answer it right away.
So that's interesting because I think that I heard this growing up and that your brain will subconsciously work on an answer even when you're sleeping, even when you're awake. Mm-hmm. Like you can like start the brain processing something and then like days later you'll be like, aha! It happened. It's there. And I've done that strategically over the years. Like, okay, I'm going to start dwelling on this this issue, this problem, this puzzle, this thing, or conceptualizing it, or I'll like start thinking about it. And then, but I know I don't have the answer, but I want to consume the information and let my brain just start working on it.
Oh yeah. It's why procrastination is not bad if you do it strategically.
Interesting.
If you know you need to work on something, you ask yourself an open loop question on the thing.
Yeah.
And then you procrastinate, in air quotes, if you can't see if you're listening, but the YouTubers can. And you procrastinate on it. Your brain is working on it. So then when you actually go to sit down and do it before it's due, you have it all now. It's all there.
Yeah. So this is actually, that's really interesting. That's how I work. It's literally how I work.
I know. You're an open looper.
So, cause what I'll do is I'll say, all right, if it's due on Friday, today I'm going to think about it. Tomorrow I'm going to visualize it in my head. Mm-hmm. I'm going to actually I pull the pieces together. I'm also the person that like really needs to see all the parts of a puzzle. Like I need to lay them all out in front of me and go, what order are they going? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and then
we have different processes.
And then, but then I can build it almost in my head. And then I sit down and I actually build it.
Yeah.
And this is how I built websites. This is how I problem solve. This is, all the things. That's fascinating.
You also do this just in life. You're like, hey, you want to know something? And then he doesn't say anything. And you know what? This is proof that brains don't like open loops and it wants to figure out the thing. Because I'm sitting there going, and then getting agitated. What do I want to know? So anyways, we talked about, so that's what open loops are. And her famous open loop is, how does it get better than this? How does it get better than this? And she challenged my question of like, I'm always asking people, if you can't do a Pilates exercise, what can you do? What else can you do? And it is very easy for you to go, what can I do? And like change the connotation. So we talked about, probably not on this podcast, but in another talk, because Joanna and I just can't stop talking to each other. What else is possible right now?
Yeah.
What else is possible right now? And it is awesome. And I love that. And so if you cannot say
same thing with the curious, like being curious.
Being curious. Yeah. Oh yeah. She was talking about curiosity and so good. Anyway, okay. Basically we were just talking about how awesome the interview is. So go back and listen, save it, share it with a friend who needs it because it is fire. She is, you can't not, Brad's going to hate I just said that. Yeah. You can't not feel like empowered after listening to that. You have so many options to go off of.
Yeah. Also stated as you will feel empowered.
Well, that's what you're here for, babe. For the people who don't like double negatives, you can translate it to a positive for them.
All right. So finally, let's talk about the B.E.I.T actions from this interview. What bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted action items can we take away from your combo with her? And I thought I'd jump in first and just say one thing that I noticed wasn't anything you talked about. It wasn't like an actual talking point you had. If you go back and you listen to this interview, I am pretty sure she used your name, Lesley, 50 times.
I know.
She says it in almost every sentence.
She does.
Lesley, you know what, Lesley? You know, this, Lesley, right? And I picked up on it like maybe halfway through, 2/3 of the way through, and I was just like, now I was listening for it, and then I heard it the rest of the time through, and I thought, wow, she is just so amazing at connecting to people in how she engages with them. She focuses on them. She speaks their name. She knows them. Oh, yeah. This is obviously a sales tactic for those of you who have ever done any kind of sales.
But she was selling only like her thoughts to me. Like she wasn't selling anything.
Right. Well, I think for her, it's habit now. It's just simply habit, right? So it doesn't matter if she's in a sales call or not. But I noticed it, and I thought, man, that is amazing. That is definitely something that you can straight up take away. So if you're trying to ever go and like connect with other people, using their name is so important.
So I will just like total plug, not sponsored by this podcast, but profitabilize.com has a course with her on how to create clients for life.
Yeah.
And she talked about say people's name, and she talked about and she also talked about how to remember people's names. So if you're like, I don't remember anyone's name, hold on, that is a closed loop, and she'll teach you how to do that. But what that made me feel in my own interview of her was that she saw me.
Yeah, sure.
And she was total, like, that was like a conversation she and I were having. And I was on her Get Up Girl podcast recently. She said my name so much, I just started saying her name. I was like, you know what, Joanna? and I was like, I feel like I got to say it every sentence but it was like, why not? Why not say people's names? So anyways, I love that of course you saw that.
Well, same thing. What about you?
Oh, okay. This is really big to me because I think we hold ourselves back by telling ourselves a story. And in her action items of Being It Till You See It, she says, everything is a choice.
Yeah.
Everything is a choice. And this is really hard when like ish is hitting your fucking fan. I don't know why I believe the first one, yeah. But the second one is important. So look, we will have different guests on this podcast that are going to have different things. And maybe you're like, my shit isn't as big as theirs, whatever. What you are going through right now, it can suck, even if it's not traumatic or cancer or any of these things. I have definitely been there. People are just now hearing that I've been homeless 3 times, and they're like, whoa, I didn't know that about you. Well, right. You didn't know me when I was homeless. That's okay. And also, I told myself, well, I wasn't homeless enough because I didn't live on the streets. But what I didn't do is go, oh, woe is me. I have no place to live. I told myself, especially my last one, I was like, you are choosing to go for a bigger life than what you have. You are making this big, brave choice. And I made it a choice that I was living that way. And it made it so much more, fun is the wrong word, but powerful and purposeful. And when other ish happened, because
it makes it more doable.
Made it more doable.
You can embrace it, even if it sucks.
And I can own it. Like, I don't have a place to live because I did this, and I don't have a car because I made a left turn in a different spot.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's a profound idea that you have a choice.
Yeah.
That life is not happening to you.
It's happening for you.
It's happening for you, and you can choose how to take it. And that's a hard, that you're essentially flipping the perspective on its head, right? It's a hard thing to do, but I mean, imagine if you can find the good in a situation.
Well, and also like what possibility that creates, right? Like you can actually ask yourself, okay,
let's go back to that open loop.
I wonder why this is happening for me.
Yeah.
I wonder why this is happening for me. I wonder who I get to be because of this.
Yeah.
And I certainly would not be the person that I am. And I definitely wouldn't be married to you if I hadn't made the choices that put me in through a trial that I probably wouldn't pray on anyone. But it made me who I am. And so that's why I really love that.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you. I am so excited you joined us today. We're really, I need you to know, I'm so grateful that you're here. Otherwise I would just be talking in a microphone in one of our rooms in our house for no reason whatsoever. But I truly believe that we all have different people in our lives who say things that make us think of things, that make us make choices, that make us do things, that make us become the people we want to be. And so if you have any questions or and you need, if you're going to use any of these tips, please let us know. Send us a DM on the B.E.I.T Pod on Instagram. share this podcast, screenshot it, put your takeaway, tag us, let us know. We really want to see you. Be it till you see it.
We'll catch you on the next one.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the B.E.I.T Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day. Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
Kevin and Belle at Disenyo handle all of our audio editing and some social media content.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer Jaira Mondal for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer Jay Pedroso for editing all the video each week so you can.
And to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.